faith and coming to the realization that we start with God, we pass through and touch all sorts of people and bless them as we go, and then we pass through another door onto something else. However, when we change our state, and I can only speak from my own personal experience about the death of my parents, I know that they are still with me. And every now and then, I can hear a still small voice that's my dad encouraging me, or my mom telling me how much she loves me. And I know that you guys are going to experience that, because they really don't go away, they just become something different. And I hope you get that blessing really soon, if you haven't had it already, of knowing that they're right there with you.
Thank you. I just continue to ask you to keep coming up. Her children, grandchildren, we would love to hear memories of her. Some of your favorite memories, please do share.
Hi. I don't know if I can get through this.
That's all right.
I think I'm one of the people who have known my Aunt Barb the longest in this room. She came into my life when I was a child. Her mother, my mother, and she were sisters. They were inseparable. What one needed, the other got. What the other needed, they shared. My mom adored her sister. At one point in my life, oh, by the way, my name is Debbie Goldie Lampman. My cousins know that. At one point in my life, I was one of those Art and Barbara took in. I was in 7th grade.
You weren't a delinquent one, though.
Ask my husband. He might clarify that for you. During that time in 7th grade, 2 things happened. I was at Jericho School. Anybody remember Jericho School? Yeah. Mm-hmm. John F. Kennedy was assassinated. The best thing that happened, where are you? A baby girl came home, and I got to hold her the first time, one of the only cousins, as an infant, and that was Don. What you don't know, though, when I was younger, I went to see The Sound of Music with your mother. We almost didn't make it. She was a new driver. And I can't remember the friend that went with us. But she was driving slow, and we were going from Amsterdam to Colony. And there were tracks in the road. There were no highways. It was Route 5. And the car was going, da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. And my aunt's going, and she's getting slower and slower. And finally she pulls over, gets out of the car. I'm a kid, I don't know anything about cars. Looks around, okay. And she looks at me and my friend. I don't know if we're getting a flat tire or the car's breaking down. What do you think we should do? We're going to the movies. All along, my aunt gave everything she could to anybody. And I'm so privileged to know my Aunt Barb and her children, all of you. So, thank you.
Now that I think about it, I may have been one of those delinquent ones. I want to hit upon the music part because one of the fondest memories I have of being at the Stoddard house is a whole bunch of us, a whole bunch of kids at the house as usual, at 4 o'clock in the morning writing music in the living room and singing songs with a full band in back of us, and her parents were sleeping upstairs. And that was just very, very normal and very common at the Stoddard house, always. There was always something like that going on. I just have a really fond memory of that. I have so many stories, we could be here all day, but another one was Donna and I went on a retreat one weekend, and while we were there, Donna had a slight accident and got a concussion and ended up in the hospital. And we had called her dad that night, and then the next morning they said they wanted to keep her overnight, so they kept her overnight for observation. And the next morning, they wouldn't let her go until we had a phone call from one of her parents. So we didn't know what to do, so I said, well, they'll be at church. And right now, they're probably in between services, so I called the church where they were. And my cousin answered the phone. My cousin David answers the phone, and I told him what was going on, and I said, you need to go get Barb and Art. Oh, they're in the kitchen having coffee. I said, okay. So he's going to go get them. So he puts the phone down, and I'm listening to this conversation going on. He goes in and he says, Barb or Art, Allison's on the phone, and she's at, and he didn't get the words out, and Art turns around in his unruffled demeanor that he's always had and says, by the way, Barb, Don is in the hospital. And all of a sudden you hear, and I'm listening to this, and all of a sudden you hear, Don is in the hospital! So I get on the phone with him, and I explain to him what's going on and that they needed permission to get her out of the hospital. But these are just two of the stories that have happened of us being a part of this big family. And I know probably Donna, Tim, and I are responsible for a good portion of their gray hairs. Zach, you were always the good one. And you were all so little that you hadn't gotten to that point yet. But I'm pretty sure we were probably responsible for some of their gray hairs. But I have such wonderful memories of that family. Her family was my family always. I always felt like part of the family. And whenever you went there for dinner, it didn't matter how many people was there was always one more serving left. Anybody could have come in the house, and there was always one more serving. Always. They never ran out of food. There was just always just one more. It was like the fish and loaves. Yeah, there was always one more serving for anybody that came and sat at their table. And I just have wonderful memories of the whole thing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unity Church in Albany. My name is Dennis Ryan, and it's time for confessions. I am the biggest single reason that Barbara Stoddard came to work here. When we purchased this church in 1996, I was the treasurer. I was responsible for making the mortgage payments. We had a secretary who was not cooperative, and that's all that will be said. I removed all bookkeeping duties from her responsibility, and she promptly quit. Our minister, Reverend Arthur Wells, was like a deer in the headlights. He had, all of a sudden, a brand new building, a fast-growing congregation, and no help. Enter Barbara Stoddard. Not only did Arthur have administrative assistant, Arthur had executive decisions when he needed them, and everything in between. When I was young, there were commercials where the Xerox machine had Brother Dominic standing next to the Xerox machine. We had St. Barbara next to our Xerox machine. Reverend Wells didn't know how bad he had it until Barbara came and showed him what a real administrative assistant looks like and works like. We were great working together. I couldn't get shed of that job. I had it for 8 out of 12 years. But all the time that I worked with Barbara, it was wonderful. It was like walking into the room where my grandmother was, because she instantly broke into a smile and greeted me with love. And when Arthur became ill and was institutionalized, Barbara found out where he was and went out of her way to visit him on a regular basis. And we're not surprised, because that's what she did. So Love is all there is, and she left a lot of it. Thanks for your time.
So I didn't really plan anything. I just happened to say something to Kate the other day, and she's like, "Oh, that's what you should say while you're up there." So, my name is Tim. I'm the troublemaker. Most of you know that already. So I was thinking the other day about my relationship with my mom. And my first thought was, we were always at odds. And I've learned over time that my first thoughts are usually wrong. And it's not so much that we were always at odds, it's that I was at odds with myself and with everyone else forever and ever. And she was never at odds with me. So it's good to know that. And I just thought of the three things that really are my most favorite memories of her. And the most recent was the last time I saw her that she was conscious was last fall. And she recognized me still. And when I was getting ready to go back to California, I looked at her and I said, "I love you." And she looked at me and she said, "I love you." And to be able to put three words together in her condition was amazing. And so I said it again, "I love you." And she said, "I love you." I said, "I love you." And she said, "I love you." And so we just sat there for 5 minutes saying, "I love you." And she had the biggest grin on her face and she was so happy. And to see her that happy in that condition was a real blessing. And then going back a few years, there was a short period where she was at Marty's house. And Christopher and I got to dance with her in the afternoons. I'm pretty sure we have video. Okay, we'll show it later. Proof. Christopher can dance. Yeah, and I can't. And probably the best thing for me is for all those years that I was the troublemaker, when I couldn't take care of myself or my daughter. Every month, without fail, my mother would drive me to see Jenna. Didn't matter if it was Buffalo or if it was Virginia. Without her doing that, I would have no relationship with my daughter. I wasn't a good parent. I couldn't have done any better than I did with her than without her. But, I don't know how many years she did that for me and for Jenna, but I can't be grateful enough.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Ty Stoddard, and I'm one of the adoptees from Vietnam. I'm so grateful for being in the family. I spent time with my mom. I took her home. I told her, I talked to her. I told her, thank you for everything. And that she gave me new life, new journey. And she helped me through my high school years and college. She typed up my papers for me and helped me with my English. And I'm going to miss her for that. I'm glad I am where I am. I thank you, God, for that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Skelly. I'm Tim's wife. And we'd been traveling, and I brought a book that Barb had given me, and it was on different prayers, earth prayers. I read every one like twice, trying to find the right prayer to bring here. And I found one, but I forgot to bring the book. So I guess I was just really doing that for myself. And really enjoying that, you know, she really got me, you know, and it's a, you know, a gift that I really have always cherished. And, you know, as Tim already mentioned, I think what I've been thinking about is, you know, what our relationship is to another person. And so, you know, people would say, oh, you know, I'm her daughter-in-law, or she's my mother-in-law, which I guess is true, but I never really felt like that was our relationship. And I guess my favorite time with her was, you know, as Tim mentioned, when we would take the drives out to see Jenna, because we really got to know each other. You know, they were long drives, and we had a lot of really deep and meaningful conversations and a lot of exploring, you know, about life and faith and love and, you know, all those subjects that I heard so many people bring to light here about her today. And, you know, that was like my best experience with her, and, you know, a time that, you know, I will really always cherish. And, you know, the best part about it was like there was no real answers in any of that. It was just exploring, you know, with each other and through each other. And, you know, she shared a lot of stories with us that I had never really heard from anyone else. And so I think, you know, we really developed an intimacy during those rides where, and maybe, you know, opening up for everyone, where she could share things that, you know, we had never really heard about, you know, her childhood growing up, and, you know, things that had happened in their family that were, you know, difficult for her, and yet, you know, listen to the stories today, right? It didn't, you know, bring her down, right? Maybe it just brought her out and forward, you know, to create a beautiful life for herself. And, you know, I feel really blessed, you know, to have known her and be a part of this family, even though when I first got here, I thought it was really crazy. You know, so many people. I grew up with, you know, one brother and one sister, and the big gatherings were always, and still are, pretty fun. And a lot of good stories. So really, really grateful and glad to see everybody today. Thank you.
I didn't prepare anything, but listen to all these stories. This one story sticks out is the singing part. We used to, as you all know, as my family knows, and my two good friends, wherever they are, no, I can't sing. But she had 4 of us, I think, or 3 of us were in King's Kids, and yeah, and we sounded like we sounded good, I thought. But we no longer do that anymore. But as we grew up, I was also, I think Tim's handed down to me being in trouble all the time. So, but anyhow, my mom bought me a bus from a store. And it was about this big. I had to be 7, 8 years old, I remember. And I needed batteries for it. It took like 8D batteries. But my dad had a flashlight, and it took 8D batteries. And I borrowed them, made them work, and he came home, he found out they didn't work, so he asked the batteries back. So he told my mother, don't let him take the batteries. So, of course, I was only 8, so I took the batteries when we went to work. But I took the bus to school, and we let it run back and down on the bus in the middle. Got in trouble for that. But I came home, and he herded cows, so you remember the right hand, I do. And so I came home, he found out I took the batteries out, and so I was grounded but one day on a Saturday, and his ways was his ways. If you did something minor, you had to sit down next to his chair and watch Hee Haw or Lawrence Welk. It was, it was horrible. But that Saturday, I had to sit upstairs in my room all day for borrowing those batteries. My mom would sneak up, but not sneak. My room was actually above the kitchen. So I would come down, top the stairs, look over, and she would sneak me like bread through the railing. But I came down, but she also gave me, when I knew my father was going to spank me, she'd give me a pillow. So it was good. So those are the things I do remember. She was the soft side of the dad was always the discipline, and she was always the one who would take care of the soft side of that. So that's what I remember, and I still remember that. So she's always still protecting us, whether she liked us or not at that time, but she just didn't have the heart to let us get disciplined. So that's my story.
Hi, I'm Lisa Schiefelbein. I am a newcomer to Barbara's life. I know her through her troublemaking son, Tim, who is a dear friend of mine. But I also want to say that I know Tim also as a peacemaker. And I have no doubt that he got that from his mama. I got to know Tim and Kate in California a couple years ago when I was out there for graduate school. And as part of graduate school, it's kind of like you match to somewhere in the United States, and somehow I matched to Albany. They're like, well, we have to have you get to know our families, and I feel like over the past year and a half, I'm new here. I've gotten to know and become part of the Skelly and Stoddard extended families, which has been very special to me. It's been a difficult adjustment. Not only weather-wise, but otherwise. But being a part of the family here has been so important to me, and what a amazing thing that Barbara has done to create such an incredibly loving extended family that has brought me in. And the only other thing I wanted to say is that I sat with Barbara a few times toward the very end of her life. That's how I met her. So she and I had never had a conversation with words, because whether she wasn't able or didn't want to, we just sat together at her home at St. Peter's. And, I'm pretty comfortable with silence, so sometimes we would just sit together, and I would just kind of stroke her hand, and she's like, kind of looked at me like I was a little bit crazy, like, who are you? But I just, sometimes I would tell her about my day and about my relationship with Tim and Kate, and she's like, I wasn't sure it was ever really registering. But maybe on the third and final visit I had with her, I think that Tim and I had recently had a dinner, and I pulled out my phone, and I'm like, so here's what, Tim and I did last week. And that woman grabbed my phone out of my hand, and she put it up to her face. I've never seen her she just looks so peaceful and happy. So most of you know Barbara in her full life. I did not. I only knew her in the final moments. But I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who was part of her life and has brought me into an extended Albany family, and especially to my friend Tim, who is a peacemaker, not just a troublemaker.
Hello, I'm Luke. I'm Zach's son. I'm not going to be up here very long. I just wanted to say something. I don't have very many memories with Grandma Stoddard, and I regret that. But there's something that has always resonated with me, and I only keep hearing over and over again. It's about the stories of her taking in different people, especially my father, when he needed help, and all my aunts and uncles. I don't know, this sounds kind of silly. I'm always worried that my whole life will just be an average one. But when I hear these stories of someone that's so selfless, that can just love so many other people, I really do hope that one day I can be like that too. Thank you.
I really do think Luke said it all. You know, so many times we want in our ego-ness to have some sort of legacy. And in the human condition, the legacy is some sort of building or a name somewhere prominent that speaks to other people and generations. And truly, the legacy is what Luke just spoke to. All the memories, all the stories that you heard about Barbara, that you've experienced yourself, all the goodness, that's her legacy. Her legacy are the seeds that have been implanted within you. Allow them to germinate within you. Allow her to be the example in your life. Don't allow her life or her death to be meaningless. Allow yourself to open yourself up and do as Barbara Jean did. Love each other. When you see someone who's in need of help, help them. Don't allow the fears of the world or the darkness of this world to stand in your way. Be the light. Dance. Sing, even if you can't sing. Where do you go? I don't know if you heard him. He said, I can sing. Yes, you can. You all can. Touch someone's life, not for selfish reasons, but for unselfish reasons, because that is what we're here to do. Allow Barbara's life to be the legacy. Allow her to live on within your hearts, your minds, and your souls, because she has touched each and every one's soul and countless others. Don't allow that life that has loved and lived through and with you to dissipate. Allow it to continue to burn brightly. Allow yourself to ignite the fire, put some embers, put some wood on it, and continue to allow it to glow and flow. And so, dearest ones, every time you bring back the memory of Barbara, do that. You know, there's a whole saying, what would Jesus do? I would ask you to say, what would Barbara do? If someone came into your life with their hand out, what would Barbara do? I didn't even know the person. I know the answer. Because there was no strangers. If someone needed some form of adoption, adopt them. Love them up. I loved what was said, that there was always enough for everyone at the kitchen, at the table. There was one more serving, I believe is what was said. One more serving. Allow yourself, not only in the food that you give to others, to be one more serving, allow yourself to be one more serving, just as Barbara was. and still is in each and every life. And so as we move forward, I'd like to share my own somewhere around here I'd like to share my own saying from Khalil Gibran. Now, one of the things I know about Barbara was that she, especially in her later life, opened herself up to all spiritual paths. She wanted to learn, she wanted to soak in. This is one of my favorite poems for this time. Khalil Gibran is from his book, The Prophet, and it's on death. You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose right-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depths of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. That the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate of eternity. Your fear of death is but a trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling, that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling? For what is to die but to stand naked in the wind than to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from the restless ideas and tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you shall truly, truly dance. Let us all dance without fear, love without fear, sing without fear. Behold the beauty of God within each and every person, just as Barbara did. And so then, within this, let us close out in prayer. Thank you, Mother, Father God, for bringing your earth angel, Bobby Jean Stoddard, onto this earth to truly embody your love, truly be your action of joy, beauty, love, compassion, all that we see and think of as our beloved brother Jesus, Barbara, our beloved sister, mother, aunt, cousin, truly embodied. Thank you for showing us the way through Barbara. Provide your strength as we go through our grieving. Provide your strength as we continue to live Barbara's legacy within us. Thank you, sweet Spirit, for the love that was Barbara, the love that is Barbara, that is now surrounding us each and every place because Barbara is within you. And continue to provide us with the strength, joy, and happiness in knowing her brought. Thank you, sweet Spirit. Amen. And so, this lovingly ends this celebration of life. The family would like to invite you downstairs to Fellowship Hall to share more stories, share more memories. And there's food downstairs as well, if that helps you to move forward. You can access the downstairs from this staircase. Watch the first step, or you can go down here and around the corner. I would not recommend going down that staircase a little. And so with that, let us start our joyful dancing and joyful singing and celebrating the fact that she had her own family from The Sound of Music by listening to The Hills Are Alive.
With songs they have sung for 1,000 years. The hills fill my heart with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears. My heart wants to beat like the wings of the birds that rise from the lake to the trees. My heart wants to sigh like a chime that flies from a church on the breeze. To laugh like a brook when it trips and falls over stones on its way. To sing through the night like a lark who is learning to play. When my heart is lonely, I know I will hear what I've heard before. My heart will be blessed with the sound of music, and I'll sing one
Thank you very much. Be blessed.